What's up with everybody, man? I'm your host, Ivy.
And your co-host, Krystina.
And you're sparking up with VANSNWEED. Make sure you like, comment,
And subscribe.
and hit that post notifications button, man. Today we got JT outside with us.
What's going on? How you feeling, man?
Sheesh, I'm doing good, man. It's a little chilly outside, but we with the vibes, you know. So on this show, we like to start off from the beginning, get a sense of who you are. So tell us about where you from, your upbringing, and basically, you know, just a little bit about your childhood.
Word. Okay, so originally, I'm from the Dubs, East Oakland. I kind of moved like all around Oakland, like early childhood, like Diamond area, all types of little shit. Probably when I was about like 11 or 12, I moved out to the Rich, and was kind of there ever since. So, you know, just, you know, back and forth, Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond. I just kind of grew up between, you know, that whole area and shit. I would say like my childhood, beautiful upbringing, actually. And I had moms and pops in the house, and my granny, actually. My granny moved in with us.
Whole little village.
Yeah, our little village, like super big support system and shit.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah, no, it was cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah. So, what was high school like for you?
High school.
Where'd you go?
I went to St. Mary's.
St. Mary's?
So, yeah, so, you know, shit, it's under and shit. But, I mean, if you know it, you know, it's like some shit where it's like, I mean, I had an interesting experience, honestly. Like, I would say, just like aside from St. Mary's, but just like in general, like, I've had such a dichotomy of an experience, like, to where, I don't know, it just kind of like, it really shaped who I am. Like, you know, a lot of my family and shit is from Oakland. So, when you talk about like different things and like how different things molded me and shit, like, started off in Oakland, and it wasn't to say that like shit wasn't necessarily going on around me and shit, but it was to say that like I always had a support system of, you know, my mom and my pops that were always kind of like guiding me in the right direction.
Right.
So that's really where I got that game at,
Right.
you know, in terms
parents.
of like, and Oakland is really where I got that foundation at. You know, the way that it kind of was, it's like my granny's house. My granny's like a real matriarch, so her house has been in the family for generations. You know, it was like everybody used to be over there all the time, and so it's just like you kind of see everything, you know, at granny's house.
Right.
You know, just
And
on
everybody could say that.
Yeah.
And Granny still got that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Especially, you know, right there.
Right.
Excuse me. Especially right there. It's prime. That's prime real estate now.
Right.
So, now that's the biggest blessing. But that is to say, like, I guess just growing up there, that's really where I got that foundation. That it's funny. I wrote a story about that, and it was just like the contrast between, you know, inside and outside, using the bars on the windows. It's like a metaphor to describe, like, you know, just kind of how my world was.
Right.
And then, you know, moving to the Rich was different because I was a little bit older, you know, so I didn't go through the West Contra Costa Unified. I didn't go through Oakland Unified. It was just kind of different for me. That's where I really learned, you know, or had to apply the shit that I was taught at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's where it was like, yeah, you know, it's a lot of different situations that I had to come about on my own. So I would say like that was where that transition kind of happened. And then, you know, I always credit Berkeley because it's just like, that's one of them places where it's just like, it's very segregated, but it's also not at the same time. And so going to St. Mary's in Berkeley, and I was always kind of around Berkeley, you know, all sides of Berkeley. I always credit that with like individuality,
Right.
you know. And it was funny because like just growing up around Berkeley, you know, a lot of kids like in the rich never left the rich.
Right.
And so
That's a fact.
a lot of kids in the rich never left the rich. And so for me, like even as like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, I was going to Berkeley. I was hanging out in Berkeley. I was, you know, going to downtown Oakland. I was in the East. I was doing all different types of shit before people really had that opportunity to kind of like wiggle around everywhere.
Right.
And then because it wasn't like, okay, it wasn't like I grew up in this community. I went to school, you know, at the neighborhood school and whatever. I kind of had the opportunity to like wiggle everywhere.
Right.
So, you know, I was exposed to Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond, the city.
Yeah.
My mom's had worked in San Jose for a bit, so I was even kind of getting down there. I had kind of been exposed to Sacramento, you know, moving
around.
and grooving everywhere.
As you
So
should.
yeah.
As you
So and I think that's what kind of made my experience unique.
Right.
And then going to different private schools and shit, I think that definitely molded who I am today as well, because that shit was real. Like there was like a real balance between you know, me just being me, and also like learning how to kind of like assimilate, code switch and shit. It was like I could learn how to do that, but I was still the nigga in the full true fit. Like I had a little speaker, I was slapping 30 hell and shit. You feel me? Like
30.
And it was like niggas was kind of lost.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I just had a dichotomy of an experience, but I think that molded me into who I am today and made me all that more comfortable in who I was, given the fact that I was around so many different identities and could really identify with, you know, the multitude of them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I could be in a room with, you know, a millionaire the one day and be in a room with a nigga that ain't got shit the next.
Come on.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's just So
That's being able to adapt, man. To you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a tangent, but high school and shit. It was interesting because high school was kind of like where I got my footing in music.
yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, okay. Not music per se in terms of like my passion for music, but in terms of like me wanting to really take music and become an artist.
Right.
I've been playing piano since I was 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so,
dope.
yeah, I play piano. I've been playing piano since I was 3, so that's always been my passion. When I was in preschool, my mom's she won an auction for free piano lessons, and so that's how I kind of got into that. And so I was always kind of like that kid, like niggas used to be going to sleep having nap time and shit, but I would always be up,
Right.
playing the piano
Right.
and shit like that. So it was just from there. I was like, this is really a passion. My mom's brought the piano teacher to the house. It was like the first time, and I just fell in love with it from that point on. And so that's how I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do. I was really that kid. Like I was in the recitals, the whole nine, all of that. Yeah. And it was funny because I was like probably around 6 when I started wanting to like sing with it. Like at first I was just playing the piano. I was playing other people's songs and shit like that. And then I was like, oh fuck, I can kind of sing with it.
Right.
And so I was singing and shit. Didn't have any, you know, formal training and shit, but it was just like a little kid just wanting to sing and shit.
Yeah.
So I kind of did that for a while, and I never had like, I had classical training in that I had a piano teacher, but I never really had, how do I put it, like my piano teacher kind of knew that music was a passion for me. You know, when you think about like piano lessons for a kid, it's like you think about the structure, like, oh, like niggas gonna sit and give you a book, you gonna read a book, you know, you gonna learn all these tangible skills that you can take with you.
Right.
It was never really that for me. Like I had the structure of having a lesson and shit,
Right.
but I never really, that just wasn't me. You know, I wasn't the type, and my parents weren't really pushing that on me.
Right.
So it was more so just like, I practiced when I felt like it. You know, my parents, they went out, they got a, actually no, my cousin, he found a keyboard in the trash.
Really?
He gave it to me, and that was just my keyboard from there on out. So I had that keyboard. My family ended up, you know, but they were invested in it, so they ended up getting me piano. They was always in my corner as it related to that shit. So they got me a piano and shit. I started really getting serious with the lessons, and it was just kind of like, not necessarily like self-guided, but I just kind of found my own passion within that. And so, yeah, that's always kind of characterized my musical experience. Like, I've never been the conventional musician. Like, to this day, I still don't know how to like sight read fluently and all that shit that people would kind of, so kind of did that. And then probably around like 4th, 5th grade, I started writing my own songs and shit like that. You know, and I tried to put them out with hella shit. I tried to put them out with hella shit. It was hella funny because I found, oh fuck, who did I send that shit to? I had hella songs. I don't know why the fuck I did that shit. I damn near had like a mixtape full of songs I sent to Clyde Carson. I don't know I don't know what the fuck I thought Clyde Carson was finna do with them songs, but I sent them to him. And then that was around that period of time.
You was singing or you was rapping?
Yeah, no, I was singing, I was rapping hella shit, and it was just the biggest blessing in itself too, because it was like every step of the way, like there was always somebody that was like really, you know, pushing me to do that shit.
Right.
So, I mean, shit. Then, probably if you from the rich, you know, the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts, that was like super major in terms of like my creativity and shit. You feel me? I was part of that like program and shit, so I essentially like had a scholarship there. I was taking hella classes and shit there. Whatever. I was singing there. That's really where I got like my foot in singing, like, and that's why niggas always used to know, like, I was just that light-skinned singing nigga and shit like that. You feel me? Like, that one light-skinned singing nigga and shit. But then it was like, beyond that point, I got to a point, like, probably 13 or 14, where I realized, like, damn, I could really make an impact with this shit, you know, and I could really tell my story with this shit, you know? And just, like I said, the dichotomy of an experience and being able to speak to everybody. So that's when I really started trying to like rap, make my own shit. I got together in a group with niggas like around my first year of high school. I called that shit 806. I don't know if you're familiar with
806 Nick?
Yeah, like 806 Nick, yeah. So I started 806 just cause like, you know, I was staying like, you know, Hilltop San Pablo area. That's the zip code's 94806.
Yeah.
So I just took the last shit of that. I called it 806 Sounds. And it was really Nick, cause I ain't gonna lie, at the time, Nick wasn't even doing videos and shit. Nick was that nigga was making beats and shit. He was trying to rap and shit. So he was just trying to find his own niche.
Right.
So yeah, we kind of figured that shit out. Then it was, let me see, there was a concert and shit that we was all supposed to perform at. I performed my song. Shout out to the homie Ron, the homie Chris. Chris went to St. Mary's with me, Ron and the homie Juju. I had grown up with Juju since we was kids and shit. But, you know, we had all kind of come together and shit, kind of like after that point, around like middle school, high school. That was like, shit, let's start a group. Because they wanted to rap and shit, and I was rapping and shit. So we was like, what should we call that shit? Really, I had my own shit already. 806 was just me. Yeah. And then I was just like, fuck it. Let's just, you know, fuck it. It's 806. Let's get into it. So we called ourselves a group. We wasn't no Backstreet Boys or nothing like that, but it was just like, you know, like a collective. You know, a collective of individual artists all trying to do our shit.
Right.
Yeah, we started along that path, and then I don't know. Excuse me if I'm going on a tangent. Nah, we started on that path, and then I don't know. We just started rapping and shit in terms of like trying to put content out, put songs out and shit. Gaining a little buzz and shit like that, and then also on top of that, shout out my Calculated family. We kind of got taken under the wing of like his name's Tree Thomas. You know, we got taken under the wing of Tree. He out of Oakland, and you know, just Calculated was a clothing store. Like they make like, you know, menswear and a lot of like leather goods and shit in downtown Oakland, or they did at the time. So we got kind of taken under their wing in terms of just kind of like trying to position us in the right places and shit like that. We was doing all these little shows, you know, downtown Oakland, Berkeley, whatever. as time got on, it just kind of got to the point where it's just like we all had different visions for as, you know, for how we saw that shit.
Yeah.
You
like
know,
that?
yeah, you know, different visions for, you know, how we saw that shit, and then it was just like, you know, doing this shit, like we also in high school and shit too, so it's like niggas just, I was just trying to graduate and shit, niggas doing all that shit. And then, you know, that kind of like naturally waned off. Nick's doing his shit.
Hell yeah, he took that shit and ran with it, huh?
Yeah,
With
Nick
them
took that
videos.
shit and ran with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. So salute to Nick. And you know, we was also kind of coming up with Adam KG. Shout out my nigga Adam. That's like
Shout out
family.
Adam, for
That's
sure.
like family as well. So we had kind of, you know, come up same kind of thing. Like Adam was, you know, really one of the first people. Nick, Adam, was all fucking with each other and shit like that. And from there, it just kind of transpired to what it is now. You know, yeah. So that was a little bit just about like early days in terms of like who I was, in terms of like a artist per se. I was trying to do a lot without actually doing too much at the same time, and I think that was one of my greatest downfalls about just being in high school. I think I tried to network too tough everywhere, so it was like here I was, this little nigga in hella different doors, but I wasn't focusing enough upon the actual product that I was trying to make, and that could be your biggest downfall, especially around here, because it's like being in the Bay. Personally, I feel like you have to show niggas that like you about your business,
Right.
you know?
Definitely.
Yeah, like
Definitely.
so
It's a fact.
you gotta show niggas you about your business. So kind of get that like 15-second window to like show niggas, and I think there was plenty of occasions that I couldn't rise to just because of that. So it's like niggas could see me. It's like, you know, also I didn't go to an art school. I didn't go to like an OSA. Like I went to St. Mary's and shit. So you kind of see that transcendence upon like different paths. You know, like like when all y'all niggas in a class together, and it's like you see as you kind of like transcend, that some niggas end up going to these classes, some niggas you go here, and it's like, you know,
Nah, it be like that.
it's just natural shit. So it's
It be
like
that.
you kind of see that split. Niggas that's practicing their instruments every day, niggas that's really locking into the craft, and not to say that I wasn't, but I just took like an unconventional route with it. So I kind of just noticed that split, and for that it just kind of became hard to kind of like lock in with shit, just for my own sake, not with anybody else, just for my own sake. Shit, yeah. I mean, nobody can really invest in you until you invest in yourself.
Facts.
So,
Facts. Say that shit.
yeah, that was the biggest thing that I had to learn, was just transitioning to, you know, really understanding that. And I used to have conversations. I used to call Adam all the time, because it was like I saw niggas like progressively getting this buzz and shit, and I call niggas. I'm like, damn, like, you know, I see people going crazy, and it's like niggas could know I have potential, but it's just like what's going on? And he was just like, bro, like you just gotta, you know, invest in yourself. So I most definitely took that upon myself. I got into UC Riverside my senior year, so I ended up completely just switching reels for a second. I went down there. I'm studying sociology and shit at UC Riverside. So that was a whole transition in itself, just getting acclimated to Riverside. And for those in the Bay, they don't really understand, like, Riverside isn't LA, you know, so.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we was just talking about that, like, Riverside really isn't LA. It's, you know, the IE is its whole separate thing. It would be like the equivalent of, like, a Sac or a Stockton,
right,
you know, to the Bay Area. So I moved down there. Yeah, it was just a completely different experience. And then I would say from that point on, you know, shout out to homie Juju once again. That's, you know, from up here, you know, but he's back and forth as well. He had introduced me to niggas I roll with now, you know, and just got locked in with that.
And is that your band, Sparker?
Yeah, so I have a band. Yeah, that's actually next thing. So the homie, shout out the homie Sev. He started this whole, it's like a record label, distribution, clothing company. It's a multifaceted, really, campaign that he has going on. They call him the mayor of Leimert Park, for those who are, unfamiliar with, different neighborhoods and shit down in LA. But he has this whole movement. It's called Every Nigga Is a Star. So, he started that, with the homies and shit a couple years back, and it's really been taking off. I've been blessed to have, started fucking with them and to now be a part of that. And then, just kind of like within that, me and the homies, we have a band. It's called Sparker. I play keys. The homie Cletus Strap, he plays the drums. We got my nigga Elliot on the bass, Simon on guitar, Cam on the synths. You feel me? And so, also my nigga Jay on sax. So we got like a, we got a whole full band. Like a whole 6-piece band. So really just the past year has just been locking in. We Every Nigga Is a Star. We got a flagship store. It's right on Crenshaw between King and Stocker. If anybody down in LA, come fuck with it. Come shout and support. We got our merch there. Let's see. We also got events there. Hella little shit. So. Yeah, most definitely, and it's right in the middle of their community. So I mean, that's the most important thing. Like for me, as I kind of stated earlier, like as it relates to the Bay, I'm kind of like a sponge. I kind of like soak up a lot of different things. So as it relates to me going down to LA and tapping in, or me going to Riverside and tapping in, it's like I really just try to soak in everything and like really just understand shit from their perspective. You know what I mean? Like everybody got their own story, and every region in itself has its own story. So just trying to really like soak into that and really understand where they coming from and the reasons why they do the things that they do. That's my approach to everything. But just tapping in with the band and shit. Picking up more on a lot of gigs and shit like that. We
sold out show in New York. I seen that shit.
Yeah, like we just we just did a show in New York. Shout out to the homegirl Amel and shit. She kind of helped us put that shit together. And so we went out there, did our shit.
I just like it. That's beautiful, man.
It was an experience. New York is different, and so that I've been out there like on different occasions, but this was the first time that I really got to like wiggle through the city, and it's different. It's fast.
Yeah.
It's fast as fuck.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was a beautiful experience. But yeah, I mean, just to be able to go across the country, just do something I love. That was the biggest blessing. So did that shit. We double back. We did different private events. We just did a show at the Roxy. Another one of them. Ventures and shit that we also own is like, it's called Pray for the Hood. So
I seen that.
yeah. So they have the homie Sev and the other homies, they came up with an event. It was called Pray for the Hood. They just started it a couple years back. At first they was just doing it just around Leimert.
Right.
For those that are unfamiliar with Leimert, that's like the black mecca of LA.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they were just doing it around Leimert and shit like that. And so to be able to now go from Leimert to doing it at the Roxy, which is in West Hollywood, Sunset Strip, that's like that's a big accomplishment. So, all blessings around, just to, just, I don't know, just be doing what I love.
Yeah. It's a blessing to do what you love, man.
Hell yeah.
Every day, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly. So, just been trying to take it, and then I also put out the song. It's called Two Tails.
Love that joint.
Thank you.
I was disappointed though. You know why I was disappointed? Because I wanted to hear more.
That shit was short as fuck.
I wanted to hear more.
Exactly.
Man, that shit was short as fuck.
Video raw as hell.
Man,
like,
appreciate
Adam
it.
did his shit.
And on my mama, shout out Adam.
Yeah, man. Talk a little.
Yeah.
Talk about that record.
So, let's see. I mean, Two Tails, it's kind of like a running theme, but it was just like the dichotomy of an experience. I feel like Well, really, the song Two Tails, I have a cousin, rest in peace, cousin Bobby and shit. He was a lot older than I was. And, you know, he played the guitar. He was real talented. And so, he was working with Motown niggas and shit. Like, early on, like, yeah, like, he was really talented. He was working with Motown niggas and shit. You know, very early on, he was staying with Marvin Gaye and his wife, the whole nine. So, he had a real passion. And so, just to, I don't know. I just kind of credit his story in terms of my upbringing because, you know, like I said, my granny spot used to be the spot everybody used to come over. So it's like after school and shit, I would get up and go to my granny's house. And so, you know, he suffered from alcoholism and shit. He suffered from, you know, a lot of different issues and shit. But nonetheless, though, it was like he always had his guitar with him and shit. And so his story was just so beautiful to me because it was like he left like the whole Motown shit and just, you know, he from the South, he from the rich, so he just came back to the South, you feel me, and was just around the rich and shit like that, you know, and just doing his thing. But it was just interesting to see, like, even in the absence of a lot of things, like how much he really had though. Right. Like that was deep. That cut deep for me. And so just, you know, being around him, soaking up game, like it could have just been like little funny shit, like little drunk shit. He'd just come around, you know, telling me and shit, but it was really just the dichotomy of it, like an experience. And I'll go back to that because that's like so heavily like what I revolve myself around, and just trying to just be one for all people. So I guess the record Two Tails, that was just really about that. Like, you know, nothing really comes by surprise. That's how I started it off. I said the world don't come by surprise. I know it too well. Right. Just because shit, I don't know, like it just don't, like, it just really don't, like, you know. Yeah, that's really where it was stemming from with that. And then, you know, I talked about just like the innocence of just growing up, like differences between, like, I think I said some shit about politics or some shit, and then I said, and if they was to ask me my part in it all, I would tell them passion, cohesion. You know, like that's just really where I stood with it, you know. Like I've never been a person where it was just like, you know, you just don't step on people's feet, you know what I mean? Like, you show love, you move with your own intentions, and that's just kind of like what I led with, especially as a kid. So yeah, that was really where it stemmed from. Was just like taking his story and then applying it to like my own story, and just how the two kind of like coincided with each other, and how I could kind of see myself in him, and like how I could kind of see myself within others, you know, myself within others. So,
do you plan on dropping new music?
Fuck yeah.
Fuck
yeah.
We are waiting.
Fuck yeah. So I got my own shit coming hella soon. We got a Sparker tape that's supposed to be coming hella soon.
Just acoustics, like just you know.
Yeah. Okay, we got some like real live shit coming and shit. So Sparker shit, my own shit, you know, Anaya shit coming soon. Like the whole shit really underway. So a lot of shit coming soon. I got a lot of different like ventures and shit that I was trying to go on myself. Excuse me, I actually had a film that I was supposed to be dropping with Adam.
I was gonna ask about that. What happened to it?
Shit. What's that nigga say? I say a lot of things. No, we were doing it. It was funny because it was like we were doing it. Damn near got like 80-90% finished with it, and then it was like the pandemic hit. I was flying back and forth from Riverside up here to try to like get it done. Ended up not panning out that way just because the pandemic hit, and then it was just like, fuck, you know, we paying actors and shit, other shit. So I don't want to like I don't want to sacrifice this shit. COVID was coming out. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this shit is. So I just didn't want to sacrifice anybody getting sick. And then by that point, it was funny because I ain't talked to Adam for a minute, and I called him, and I'm like, bro, you still want to like try to put this shit together? He was like, shit, bro, I think we should talk about this shit for real.
Yeah.
But we tried like doubling back, trying to change the idea, because really like the idea that I had for it was like super complex. Like, and I don't want to do something to where it's like it goes over people's heads.
Right.
Like, I wanted to do something that really resonated with the people, as opposed to just like thinking I could go out and come up with something and, you know, just have this whole complex idea that it's like I could put it out and it's just like, yeah, but that don't resonate with the people like that. So that's why I kind of scaled back on my idea, and then we moved even further along with it. You know, just like, you know what, it was a learning experience. I learned a lot, because quite honestly, like, I'm not really experienced in the film regard. You know, I was just trying to put it together. A lot goes into that, you know. It's really like, it really boils down to like how well you project manage as well. You know, like even in running this podcast, like you gotta make sure niggas straight and shit like that. I'm over here thinking like, I gotta text people, like tell them to meet up at a certain spot. Like, okay, if this filming, like, or if this scene gonna take however long, y'all niggas need some pizza, like y'all need, like, y'all need water, like, okay, like, yeah, like, you know, I had the Young Life pulling up and shit to come shoot with us. So it's like, you know, just crossing your T's and dotting your I's to just make sure like everything is all put together is a lot more than it actually looks like. More than just, you know, just shooting. Right. Yeah, it's a lot more than that.
Do you have a favorite between being a pianist, a singer, or, you know, rapping, or even just filmmaking, directing?
Or
no?
I don't know. That's just kind of hard. Like,
Say love them all.
I love them all. No, for sure. I haven't sang in hella long. And so I want to get back into singing. I would say playing the piano and shit. It's really where I could just lock in. And I feel like there's always something new to learn about piano for me. So I just love that quest, like that hunger, that journey. So it's funny because it's just like throughout the years I've seen myself like even on a micro level, like I did like certain licks and shit like that. Not like licks, but you know, like piano licks and shit like that. Early on and shit that I'm not doing now, and it's just like you learn different things and you acquire them. Just like, you know, as you get deeper into podcasting and deeper into interviewing, it's like you do different things and like, I don't know, even with video, like you grow with it and just seeing how that shit grows. So with rapping and shit, I feel like I love it because I'm tuning into myself. And it's funny about the songs and shit because it's like I don't always necessarily write. Like, I'm not the type of person that's sitting there with a notebook like, oh, I just gotta, but when it comes to me, it comes. Like, last time I really wrote a song besides Two Tails, I was really locked into like having a phone conversation with my cousin, and after that I was just like, man, I just gotta write about this shit. And I just went and knocked it out like that. So it's really like an instinctive thing. That's the same thing with piano too. Like I said, I've never been regimented to sit down and play the piano for 30 minutes at a time, an hour at a time, every day to get better. It was more so just like whenever I felt like it. But then when I felt like it, I would sit there and play the whole night.
Right. See?
You know?
That creativeness never comes from just sitting there and trying so damn hard. Like, whenever I try so hard, it just never come out how I wanted to. But then
like,
when I'm just sitting there, all of a sudden it comes in my head, all the producers just flowing. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's definitely like that.
But most definitely, I would say, like, I appreciate the rapping and shit because I feel like just with rapping and just with music, all of this shit in general, it's now less about like making. For me, it is about the music, yes, but for me, it's more so about like how my music can impact other people and how like these projects that I do can impact other people. You know, even just being in a new environment, like being in LA or being in Riverside in particular, it's like, you know, what they got going on there is often overshadowed by what's going on in LA.
Right.
So, you know, it's a lot of people that, you know, it's a lot of talent in Riverside. Just like it's a lot of talent in LA, it's a lot of talent out here.
It's everywhere.
You know, so for me, my thing is, you know, and I can't tout, you know, doing something that I haven't fully executed yet. So I can't do that. But nonetheless, though, like, my thing is, like, for me, like, for instance, UCR, like the campus itself, sits in a predominantly black, Hispanic stronghold, you know, low income, working class community right there. You feel me? So in the past, you know, maybe 30, 40 years, they've updated a lot of the shit, you know, but at what cost? We've seen the gentrification shit happening here. You know what I mean? But it's like, for me, as a person that's coming to their community, it's like, how, you know, I'm just trying to be a sponge. Like, I'm just trying to soak in game and shit, just trying to see how they operate, how they move. But more importantly, like, okay, like, since I'm in y'all space, like, what do y'all need? You know, a lot of niggas when they come to college are just coming there for like the 4 years and shit, thinking like, okay, I'm just getting in, getting out. Like, this is my little local food spot. This is where I go eat. This is where I do my shit. But for me, I'm thinking of it like big picture. Like, that's why I'm asking niggas like really from the community instead of just opposed to thinking like, oh, these niggas probably need like a canned food drive. These niggas probably need this. These niggas probably need that. It gets deeper than that, you know? It feels good to niggas here, like, let's say like, excuse me, if somebody like Adam or some shit shoots a video and shit, you got kids in the video, like, you feel me? Let's say you from a hood that don't necessarily get all that much representation. Seeing yourself in a video and that's representation right there. Like, that shit cuts deep.
No, it does.
So, I mean, it's deeper than just, okay, like, you know, doing the soup kitchen and the toy drive and this and that. That's important and that's what it is, but there's something a lot bigger than that. So for me, it's like, that's why I said, like, originally, like, I'm from the Dubs, but my experience is so much deeper than that.
Right.
And everywhere that I go, you know, I really grew up in Richmond though. So, but it's like, no matter whether it's Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond, Vallejo, the city, LA, Riverside, no matter what, to the extent that it's like I'm a part of your community, you know, I'm gonna really take the time to try to understand what's going on in the heads of these people and you know, try to do stuff that truly makes an impact.
Right.
So that's my whole mantra. So I try to use the music and shit as a means of trying to do that, or like just art as a means to do that, representing all sides of the coin, you know, because it's cliche to say, but we're all a lot more similar than we think. So, you know, a lot of times, like, when you're stuck in your day-to-day, you don't really realize that, you know, and some people don't have the opportunity to realize that shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of niggas have to be stuck in their day-to-day. And so, you know, to be able to see myself as one with all is a blessing. And quite honestly, like, I be getting emotional over that shit. Like, you know, shit. Keep it a whole fucking band with you. Like, I be sitting in the car sometimes, I be breaking down. Like, I be breaking down crying on some real shit. And it's not necessarily like feelings of sadness. It's not necessarily like feelings of happiness. It's just the weight of the world. Like, you know.
That's a fact.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
but I truly feel that. So ultimately, like, it's deeper than that. It's a whole lot deeper than that. But
Beautifully said, though.
Yeah.
like that's my that's just kind of like my outlook on shit. So
With all of that, in the music industry, are there any artists that inspire you in your work? And yeah.
so,
Or who? I'm sorry. Who were
oh,
you
no, you good.
listening to growing up? To like what artists?
that's crazy. Okay, so like growing up, so my pops, he likes a lot of older like R&B, the smooth jazz, all that shit.
Right.
My mom, she's not necessarily like as heavily into jazz. She likes R&B and you know the gospel and all that shit. So I kind of grew up with those influences. Even contemporary shit like the John Legends and all that shit. So I kind of grew up listening to a lot of that shit too. And then it was funny. Somebody just asked me the other day what the first rap album I found was. It was an Andre Nickatina album, and I don't know why. I don't know how I found that shit,
Right.
but I did. It was
In the house?
random.
You found it in the house?
Nah, it wasn't in the house.
Oh, okay.
Just like out of my own volition. Like I
Okay.
just found it, and my music tastes have always been kind of like broad, but also like local. So, you know, growing up, I was listening to a whole hell of a lot of local shit. Like I said, like I was still, you feel me, on the back of the bus, slapping that 30 and shit,
Yeah.
hella Tayway and shit.
Like everybody else.
Yeah, I'm like hella that shit. You know, rest in peace, Bugsy. I was listening to a lot of Bugsy and shit. You know, super shout out to Bugsy, because I ain't gonna lie, that was one of the first niggas when I was a young nigga that, you know, I used to reach out to niggas when I was like, you know, you 13, you 14, and it's just like, you just look up to niggas that are around you and shit like that. So, you know, you just see niggas coming out with different shit, and I just always admired that shit. So,
Yeah, with the Richmond shirts and
on my mama,
everything.
and that
Man,
was-
you know.
hell yeah. And that was one of the first niggas that, that was the first nigga. I was like 13, and he pulled up on me. He was always down to chop game with a nigga and shit like that. So, that shit cut deep, you know, and that shit meant a lot. So, that is to say, like, I was listening to a lot of local music. Also, like, bigger than that, though, like, I listen to a whole lot of jazz. So, I'm super into, like, Terrace Martin, Robert Glasper, Kamasi, and they kind of all in that same umbrella. But I listen to them as well. You know, obviously, like, the Kendrick Lamars and shit. I like, Yep, J. Cole. I really fuck with Saba. I really love Saba. He got this one song called 2012. That shit damn near make me tear up on my mama. It's just some real shit. Some real nostalgia shit. But it's a wide variety of shit. And that's within rap. But then on top of that, like, I'm also attuned to other shit like R&B, jazz, shit. I had a rock phase. I fucked around.
Y'all did.
Yeah, I fucked around and listened to some rock, some metal, and all types of little shit. So, yeah, no, for sure.
You very broad. You can touch on every.
Yeah, like, yeah.
What advice can you give other artists like yourself from your experience since you've been in the game since you were 3, and you've seen a lot already? And this is only, I feel like this is like only the beginning. I feel like.
Yeah. I would say, like, on some real shit, it's exactly what I had said, like, you know, not that long ago. It was like, you gotta be able to focus on your product, whatever that product is, and the rest don't come. You know, some people don't do this shit with necessarily the idea of creating an impact or whatever. And, you know, everybody finds music for different reasons. You know, sometimes, and that's why I never try to discredit a nigga doing music and shit like that or whatever. And quite honestly, I find beauty in just not necessarily having it all figured out. I find the beauty in not necessarily having all those resources. Like, you know, you look at some of Kendrick Lamar's first albums and videos. I love those. Like, in many ways, that's kind of like my blueprint. And it's hard for me because, for me, like, naturally, I'm the type of nigga where it's like, if I want to play the piano, I want to, like, sit there and really calculate it out and figure out all these crazy chords and figure out, like, the right shit to say.
Right.
And you look back at Overly Dedicated, that's not his first verse, but that's the first mixtape that you can see on iTunes or something like that. You look at the sentiments, you look at the messages, everything, like, excuse me. He was putting out, like, what was that song? Pussy and Patron. He said, I'm going through something in life, but pussy and Patron make me feel alright. And that's just like, that's some real shit. That's some real shit. But it's like, on top of just the instrumentation itself, like, it's not necessarily all that complex sonically. It's not all that complex lyrically and shit like that. But it's real shit. And you feel it. God damn. But yeah, like, going back to that type of shit is important. So just really locking into what your craft is and just speaking that truth. And that truth doesn't always necessarily have to be, you know, necessarily so complex. That's a thing that I always, you know, struggle with. This is a nigga that was always trying to find the right things to say and always trying to play the right chords that make a nigga be like, whoa, like, this shit is some next level shit. But honestly, like, that shit comes in mistakes. That shit comes in the lack of resources. That nigga was shooting that shit on iMovie. You feel me?
Yeah.
So we even take that approach into the Sparker shit. Like, the homie and shit, like, we got like a live mixer and shit. So whenever we playing and shit, it's hella funny because whenever we get locked into a groove, we'll just start playing for hella long. And
jam session.
Yeah, like real jam session. We'll record the whole thing. And it's funny because it's like, we'll fuck around, like, it's just raw, like, it's uncut. We'll fuck around and mess up, like, we'll just do hella shit. And, you know, that'll still be the same clip we use on Instagram. Or that's the same, just to show, like, this shit is real, you know?
Raw.
Yeah, it's raw.
Yeah.
But I would say that's the advice that I would give to people. And it's crazy because it's like my cousin told me, you know, and I this is kind of like what got me on the right foot in the first place. It was like, time is of the essence. So always focus on what you're trying to do. Like, you gotta be able to know what you want to do and then be able to focus on that shit.
Right.
I'd be going and catting off doing some other shit. And my cousin always used to tell me, he'd be like, why are you doing that shit if you really trying to do something? You feel me? Like, why are you trying to do this shit if you really trying to do something else? So I think that really just boils down to, like, really doing that soul search and trying to figure out, like,
That inner work.
yeah, like, what you want to do and how you can take that to the next level. And then actually doing that shit actively.
Right.
You know, immersing yourself with people that can do that as well.
Right.
That's a big thing.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Being
That's
around
important.
creatives that,
Exactly,
you know,
like-
love music as much as you do, appreciate music as much as you do.
For sure.
That's dope. I love that. Great advice. Now, are there any artists or any individuals or whoever that you like to shout out on this platform
Shit.
that have molded you, whatever, you know?
There's so
There are
many.
probably a lot.
There's so fucking many of, like, so many different realms. Shit. I don't know. Not in particular, but just, like, you know, everybody, like, literally everybody, like, and like everybody that I done came up with and shit like that, and whether it be like the 806 shit, Anais, you know, everybody within that, you know, just people growing up. Everybody, like, that shit is like way too many people to name. But yeah, no, everybody has really molded me into who I am today, which is why, like, I just take all this life experience and just channel it through my own to create shit.
Right.
You know?
For sure,
Feel me,
man.
feel me.
What's next for you? What can we
Shit.
expect next from JT, man?
Next shit. Well, I'm finna graduate in June.
Come on,
So
man.
that's on the school front.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's on the school front.
Yes, sir.
And then, you know, a whole lot more shows, a whole lot more content. Shit, y'all better stay tuned for this shit. I mean,
Hell
I guess
yeah.
when it's out, it's gonna be out. So
Yeah,
y'all gonna
yeah.
see it. But, yeah, whole lot more content, whole lot more songs, shows.
Please do more
No,
songs, more
please.
visuals. We need
on your
that.
account, like,
We need
Yeah, like,
look.
most definitely. Everything coming soon. I kind of just want to start trying to put together some multimedia shit, like all different types of shit. So not simply just music, but like also getting into the film, getting into like visual art, and just
Yeah.
having everybody, you know, fuck around. We all in this shit together. So yeah, most definitely.
Hell yeah. Hey, look, we gonna work together soon, man.
Yeah.
Fucking with VANSNWEED, oh God, man.
Most definitely.
Hey man, it's been another segment of Sparking Up with VANSNWEED, man. We got JT outside with us, man. We out.
Fuck with it. Love and support.